Good afternoon. Hello, my name is Keith. I'm the administrator here at the BGMA. Thank you all for coming. I just want to start with, I'd like to acknowledge that Brandon is located on Treaty 2 territory on the shared lands of the Dakota, Cree, Dene, Anishinaabe, and Anishinaabe. This is the homeland of the Red River Métis. Before we start with today's presentation, I'd like to bring up Board Chair Brent Chamberlain, who's going to say a few things, and then but very brief, so we'll get right to Doug's presentation.
Well, not that brief. Of course it'll be brief. Welcome to BGMA. I'm Brent, the board chair. Love to see a packed house. And Doug, I've met, I think he's was on the board or are on the board he's on the board.
No, just came off.
Just came off, so
this week.
Taking a little bit of a holiday from the board at Art Gallery of Southwest Manitoba. That's where we first met. It's going to be an excellent hour and a half, whatever time we need. I just want to mention that Doug has got an exhibition as we speak at the gallery going on. So I encourage you all, you're going to get a little taste here and see the rest of it. Whip down to the art gallery in the next month or so and have a look at some of his works. There's some other artists there as well. So we try and work together. Between the library, ourselves, the art gallery, we're trying to do more things together. Welcome. We don't charge for these. We do appreciate donations. Nothing's too big or too small. So we'll take anything from a quarter to thousands of dollars. So I know I see a few here that could probably do the latter, but no pressure. No pressure. Anyways, welcome. There is a few events coming up in October. I want to mention while I've got you all here, Keith. In October, there's
so in October we're going to have a walking tour. They're going to be on Thursdays. There's two of them at lunch hour. I think it's the 16th and the week after that, 23rd, I believe, are the dates. So keep an eye out for that. This is going to be a dark history of Brandon. And
there's lots of it, right, Keith?
Yeah, there's a little bit of dark history. We also have a pub crawl coming up next month, partnership with Brandon Parks and Rec. Don't have a confirmation on that date yet, but it's probably 23rd. And there's a board game afternoon. There's a board game called Wingspan. If anybody's heard of that, so it's another partnership with the library. We'll be able to accommodate up to 10 players. We'll have 2 copies of this game. We'll be playing it with the birds and the hills. So the game is thematic. The game is about birds. And just stay tuned. Look at our page.
And just to follow up, you don't have to leave when Doug's presentation is over. Feel free to stay and have a look around. And or if you can't do it today, come back another day. Bring a friend, bring a neighbor, bring your family. We love to have you. And without further ado, I present to you Doug Derksen.
Thank you. You're assuming people won't leave halfway through my presentation now. Thanks. The show at the art gallery, there's a group of us involved. It's the Free Flow Artists Collective. And I think there's, 10, 12 of us as part of the show in the community gallery. And it's been really interesting to be part of that. As a photographer, there's some other photographers, there's painters. And so we've been trading works and doing things together. I've given photographs to people to paint on. They've given me sketches to put into my photographs. Gone out with Wei Ming. We've gone out, actually with Anita, just trying to think, and Doug Fraser. So those are the 3 other people that are here that are part of that show. So that's what that's about. And this has nothing to do with what I'm going to talk about. I promised somebody that I would show a picture of an owl that I took about a month ago.
It's a good picture.
Yeah, thanks. So I want to talk about Nightscape. I love landscape photography. I really feel at home in the natural world and have really enjoyed it for a long time. I've taken Northern Lights photographs for probably over 20 years, started in film and now in digital. So I'm going to talk a bit about Northern Lights. I'm going to talk about Milky Way, the moon, and some star trails. For those of you who've seen me talk about this before, the majority of these photographs are new. There's a few in the last 2 years. Some of them are older. And I presented this some of this or the similar ideas to the camera club, and I spent a lot of time talking about camera gear and photography end of it. I'm not going to do any of that unless you have questions. So it's going to be more about the experience of being outdoors in the wild, and I'm hoping that's bright enough in here that you can all see. What else did I want to say here? Briefly on cameras, and then I'll leave that completely unless there's questions. Unfortunately, night photography is the one place where expensive cameras, expensive lenses, and a really good tripod pay off. The new cameras are extraordinary. The sensors are amazing. Most of these photographs were taken with wide-angle lenses. Got a 14 to 24, a 15, and a 16. So for those of you who are into the camera end of things, almost all of what you'll see is that, except for some of the photographs of the moon, which are with a long lens. So, and they're long exposures, usually 15 seconds, sometimes up to 30 seconds. So that's all I'm going to say about the camera side of things.
I'm leaving.
Marianne.
I'm just going to go sit with my friend.
Okay. There's nobody back there. Sure. Is the one standing there in the white? Sorry. So one of the interesting things about doing night photography is that we assume it's black. And there are all kinds of colors in the night sky. And particularly with the camera sensors today, you pick up all kinds of different colors. And it's fascinating to be out. Usually I go by myself, maybe with one other person. This happens to be when we were out with the camera club at the Spruces. So this is Clear Lake, looking towards Wasagaming. That's where all the light's coming from. We were trying to do the Milky Way, which ends up going right into the bright lights of Wasagaming. But still ended up being a great photograph. Long exposure, so the lake kind of goes milky in the light. If you've got questions or comments or anything, just feel free. So ever since I've been a kid, I've liked the night, actually. Grew up on a small fruit farm in southern Ontario, and as kids we spent tons of time out in the orchard, and we would play hide and seek at night. And we only had so many flashlights, and I usually went without one. And I love being out there, letting my eyes adjust, listening, figuring out where people were from the sound, and kind of seeing. I've always had pretty good night vision, so I've always been pretty comfortable, even on my own, out in the middle of the night. And so it's a different perspective than being in the day. It's something that I really, really enjoy. So I took this one about 2 weeks ago. So that's the elevators at Kemney. Most of the time I don't include man-made objects, but I really like this photograph. So this is the full moon setting. So you can imagine the sun rising behind you and spilling light onto the scene. This is the Assiniboine Valley, right near our place actually, and filling with fog. I have no idea why that's the color of the fog. I don't change the colors. I'll bring them up a little bit in post-processing, so that's what it was. The other thing I'll say, this is actually a composite of 2 photographs. One exposed for the, hi. One exposed for the foreground, and one exposed for the moon, and then brought together. So most of the time these are single photographs, but just so you know, sometimes they're composites, and I'll try and let you know about that.
Were there any mercury vapor lights around in the area? They'll give that.
Oh, yeah, probably, yeah. Darlene's saying that mercury vapor lights give that pink tone. So it could be that there's enough light from the elevator coming this way. The other thing that it could be, I cropped the photograph. Underneath this, there's all yellow stubble from the crop. So I don't know if there's any interaction with that. Yeah, you're probably right. The lights, yeah. Yeah, it did. So that was the moon setting. This is the moon rising. There's some real advantages to doing the moon rising because you can hike out when it's still a bit light and then be there as the dark sort of comes around you. This is at Barkley Sound on Vancouver Island, just south of Ucluelet, Tofino, Pacific Rim National Park, if any, that's the area. I particularly like this. It sort of summarizes or encapsulates for me that part of the world. You've got mist and islands and the mountains. So I got there well before the time when the moon was going to rise. You've got apps now that tell you when the moon's going to rise and actually where it's going to rise. So you can stand in this place and take your phone in the middle of the day and it will show you where the moon is going to come up, and it's really helpful. And the moon was going to come up right there. So I was standing there and it was dark. It was getting darker. I could smell the ocean and hear the foghorns and everything, and thought, did I mess up? There was a bank of clouds over the mountains, and all of a sudden the moon just poof, popped up. So that's that one.
Is the back row trees, or is that just the bare hills?
This one?
Yes,
Those are the mountains.
so there's no trees.
There's probably trees on them, but yeah, these would be the coastal mountains right against the Pacific Ocean. So I can't answer. This would be trees on the hills, like on this part. You can see the trees here. So this was taken about half an hour later. I moved to a different location. During the day, I'd seen this small tree, kind of like a bonsai tree, and I really wanted to include it in the frame. You never know what's going to happen at night. This big cloud bank came in off the ocean, and within about 10 minutes of taking this, it was just black. But got this one before it happened.
So you do a lot of scouting in the daytime, and
Yeah.
you know where to go.
Yeah, it's a good question or good point, Kevin. So during the daytime, I'm always thinking, all right, where is this going to be happening, and what's there, what's possible. Around here, I've got a pretty good idea where things are. It's kind of like, this maybe indicates my age, but I've kind of got a Rolodex in my head of where to go and what the angles of the sun are going to be or the moon. But yeah, I often, and you can actually take your phone. There's an app called Photo Pills. You get it up and you put a time in, so you can say midnight tonight, and it will give you where the Milky Way is and the moon. And then through your camera, you can go like this, and you can go, oh, that's exactly where the Milky Way is going to be. Or you can do that from a month from now or 6 weeks from now. So you can get a really clear idea where to be. It's not 100%, but it's close enough that you can get there. But yeah, this involves usually a fair bit of planning, which I enjoy, and then getting there and then forgetting all that stuff, and then just sort of reacting to what's happening. Full moon rising. This is along the Souris River. There's a big area of grassland. I like this tree. You'll see it more than once. Again, this is a composite, one exposed for the foreground and one for the moon. Yep.
I was going to ask Doug, you obviously, this is one of your favorite spots.
Yep.
And you must have others. What are some of the others in this area?
Well, I go down to Souris Bend. I don't know if you know where that is. So it's between Highway 10 and Highway 2 as the Souris goes around. Roger, you've canoed through here a few times, and yeah, you have as well. Even with my canoe, if I remember.
You put me in the front.
Anyway, yes, that was my canoe. And Roger was good enough to fix it after it went crashing through the waves.
We did fix the seat before
You did.
we gave it back.
Yeah, they did. So I really like that spot. There's three or four ways in in there. There's the bridge, the steel bridge, if you know that area, McKellar, I think McKellar. Anyway, as you go south to Margaret, I think it's the 340. And then there's sort of a middle camp where you drive in on a long trail and go down in. And then there's the north camp, which is a little harder to get to. And so I go there often. I like going to Spruce Woods. I enjoy, there's a spot west of Brandon where the Assiniboine River, there's easy access to it. So I'll go there quite a bit. South of Shiloh, there's a bunch of wildlife management areas there. So I like to go there. It's public land, and I don't have to worry about it unless it's hunting season, which I have had some interesting experiences with hunters.
They don't hunt photographers, do they?
I'm hoping not.
Anything moving.
Yeah.
Well, I have an orange vest in my vehicle that I wear. But I've been out there in non-hunting season and heard all kinds of rifle shots and had people come up with rifles across their dashboards and giving me evil eye, and I'm thinking,
Don't wear your Christmas reindeer hat.
no, leave that one at home. So just to sort of explain a little bit, again, from the technical side, just a little bit. So this is obviously the moon, and I'm exposing for the side that's in shadow. And it's just a sliver of a moon that you can see, and so it's super bright. So that's one option. This is the other option. That's just taken about 5 minutes later. So exposure makes a big difference. The other thing that's interesting, when you think about it, if you were standing on the moon, you'd be in full sunlight, just like it's the middle of the day here. And so from a camera setting point of view, you need to be using similar settings to what you would do in the daytime here, if you want to get this kind of a shot. It's kind of a little bit of the Death Star thing. So this is after dark, and this is exposed for the foreground, and it's full moon. Sometimes the sometimes the moon is so bright there's shadows. Any of you go out at night, especially in the wintertime, you'll notice the shadows. And so this was super bright.
And tree again.
Yeah, it's the same tree. It's just a one lone tree in the middle of nowhere. It works good. It works well for
Can you
me.
take that tree with you and stuff?
Yeah. No. Yeah, I've got a big, huge van and all this stuff, things. So you can see stars. So it is the night. Clouds.
You never know otherwise.
No. No. What I like about this one is this rock. And I often think about the rocks that I find out in the prairie. And they've been there for thousands of years. They were there when indigenous people came through here hunting. There's all kinds of evidence of winter camps in this area. Bison would have kicked these rocks, I'm sure. And, you know, just time. The essence of time is just so different at night. And the rock sort of brings that out. I know indigenous people call them grandfathers. I don't know if it's also grandmothers, but again, seeing things long into the past.
So it wasn't really this dark when you were taking the picture, but because of the time lapse, it's brighter?
It was darker, yes. I mean, it was fairly dark, but it's a long exposure. And so it got the right exposure for the foreground. And it just made the sky much brighter, but it was really bright. We actually had gone out earlier to try and get the moon rising by the tree like the other one. But it was just so bright, and we got there a little later. We were doing some other photography. One of the things I like about middle of the night and thinking about the rocks is that, for me, sort of in a state of just being, kind of let all the ideas we've got in our heads, at least in my head, all these competing ideas. And today, with all of the competing ideologies and perspectives on the world, if you're standing there in the middle of the night and you realize stars have been there for millions of years, these rocks have been here for thousands of years, that some of the nonsense that's going on now is And 1,000 years won't mean very much.
So Doug, on something like that, are you just using the exposure meter on the camera, or are you
Yeah.
compensating at all? Or?
So yeah, the question is, am I using the exposure meter on the camera? I go in full manual mode, and so I'm looking at the histogram, and I'm often bracketing. But yeah, this one I intentionally overexposed, because if you had it on automatic, it would have come out much darker. So now we're going to switch to Milky Way. Same spot. You can see there's lots of light pollution. This is kind of pointed towards Wawanesa. So some of you have seen this photograph before. I just want to talk about the Milky Way, just so you know what you're looking at. So the Milky Way is obviously a high density of stars coming across like this. This is considered the core. You can see up here there's a bit of a fork. That's the Great Rift. And this is the Dark Horse. Now, if you can't see it, I'll explain that in a minute, but this is a Dark Horse Nebula. So if you're a night photographer, the goal is to get this above the horizon. Here, because we're far north, it's actually not an easy thing to do. This is in April, and this is in April, the Milky Way is flatter, and the core and the Dark Horse are above the horizon just before dawn, because as the night goes on, the core is just sort of lifting up, so you got to be as close to dawn as possible. So it's taking about 3:30 in the morning. And you can see a bit of a red band here. I don't know if you can see that, but there's, it could be northern lights, although I'm told this is probably air glow. And I'll talk more about air glow later, but it's a similar phenomenon, and sometimes it adds a lot to the photo, sometimes not. This is Lake Catherine. The other thing I'll say, when I'm standing out there, I don't see all these stars. Even if I had young eyes, you wouldn't see them. The camera sensors are amazing. So this is I probably see 1/10 of these, but you can see where the Milky Way is. And so this is bringing out what's there.
Imagine how Hubble or Webb be.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah, the
They have
Webb.
good sensors.
Yeah, some of these, or the Webb telescope or some of these other things would be amazing. So that's the Dark Horse. And then if you turn it on its side, there's the Dark Horse. So once you've seen it, like it took me a long time to figure out what people were talking about. But once you see it, you go, oh yeah, there it is, right? So now you know. So this is back on Vancouver Island. And this was taken about a year ago right now, actually. I wanted to get a shot of the core and the Dark Horse above this little island and the break in the island, break between the shore and the island. So this is taken in the fall, and you can notice the Milky Way is more upright. And so that's an indication of the fall. And the nice thing about the fall, the best time to get the core above the horizon is in the evening. It's just as close to after dark or as soon as it gets dark enough. So it's, from a personal point of view, it's nicer to stay up than it is to get up at 3 in the morning. The other thing that's really different about shooting on Vancouver Island, here you go out on the prairie, it's open, you can see the odd tree, and if there's an animal, you kind of, you could see it. To get to this place, you're walking through rainforest that's way up high. It's a moonless night, because that's the best time for Milky Way, and it's black. You can't see this much. So, and there's bears. I saw a bear on the beach here about 3 days later, so it has a bit of excitement.
Were you alone?
Yeah. I often go alone, although my neighbor Herman Lepp, he'll be in one of the photos later. He's really into night sky photography, and we often go together, which is a bonus. I don't have the photograph or the series of them in this set. We met up at Kananaskis, and we went up into the mountains, and that's interesting. Again, moonless night. You go for a half-mile walk through the forest to get down into a nice spot to take pictures, and you know there's grizzlies somewhere. So we were making a lot of noise.
Well, it's good to travel in pairs because you've got somebody to fight the bear while you run for help.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think Herman can run faster than I can. So I'm the sacrificial bear bait. So you can see the long exposure and the waves kind of smooth out a little bit. We were there for 5 weeks, and so we got there at the beginning of one dark phase, and we were there a month later for when there's no moon, and so I went back out to the same spot. And you can see the blue. So that's bioluminescence, which is really, I'd seen it the year before when we were there in my photographs, so I knew what it was. You can't see it that way when you're standing there, but standing there again, moonless night, it's dark. You can see the waves break. And right away you think, oh yeah, well of course. I mean, the waves break and there's white foam and you think, yeah, this is just, of course. And you realize, no, it's dark. And so what you're seeing is the bioluminescence, and the 15-second exposure picks up the blue light. So I went to a different spot. This is again at Pacific Rim. This is Lovekin Rock, or also called, it's on Long Beach. It goes by a number of different names. So the Incinerator Rock. So I wanted to get the bioluminescence, and the waves were breaking around this island.
What causes the bioluminescence?
So the bioluminescence is caused by microorganisms. So you've got all these zooplankton and whatever else in the water. And when they get stirred up, or there's a predator coming and stirs things up, they bioluminesce. And so it's the water tumbling. It's an interesting thing you ask, because after I took this picture, and you can see like this is low tide, so I went way, way out. I've got rubber boots on, the waves are coming up sort of almost over my boots, and I'm moving back because the tide's coming in, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but back to the bioluminescence. So as I turned around and started walking back, and I'm looking up because I'm trying to figure out exactly where on the horizon I'm supposed to go to find my car, because I'm way, way out. And I'm looking, and out of the corner of my eye, I keep seeing this blue stuff. It flashes of light, and I figure, what the heck? So I stop, look around, can't see anything, start walking again, see it again. And finally, as I'm walking, I look down, and every time I step, there's this like sparks, bioluminescent sparks. It was just amazing.
When did you do a video of that?
Yeah, well, I actually tried to take pictures of it, but they're just like little tiny dots for a second there. But
You were a predator?
no, I was a predator, yeah, stomp. So what's really cool about this, for some of you know, I spent a long time in bed or a recliner trying to recover in pain from back surgery. It was like 8 years kind of thing. And I never thought I would be out in nature again. And it was, I loved my work. I really enjoyed it, but being in wild places was really what drew me and what fed me. And so I remember standing out here by myself, smelling the ocean, feeling the waves, taking pictures, seeing the stars, and I'm by myself. It's the middle of the night, and I think, man, this is just amazing, because I really never thought I'd ever be able to do something like that again. Sorry for my voice. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay. Souris River, very close to where you camped. Roger and Cheryl, this is very close to where you camped. So this is about 4 o'clock in the morning. It's May, so it's not quite laying flat, but a little bit. And it's late enough in the night that the sky is starting to turn blue. That's why the blue is there. And I give my night photography buddy Herman credit for wanting to do this. He wanted to set up a little fire, and so we set this up. So should I confess that it's not really a fire? we put a tea light in there.
Just a tea light.
Yeah, and we actually had to cover it with firewood because it was too bright. And a fire would have been way too bright. And the other thing is, this is in early May, I think, or late April, and all the grass is dead. And we didn't want to be responsible for starting a major grass fire. And this was quite a walk from the truck where we would have, I don't even know if we had a bucket to put the fire out. So anyway, this was the solution. I've shown another photograph from this spot before. This is also the Souris River. And you can, now that you're aficionados, you can see kind of the dark horse. It's starting to disappear. Here's the core. And this glow is the air glow. What is a lot of fun about going to this spot, and this is where it is nice to have two people, we're actually parked sort of back in the trees here, hiked along the river, waded across the river in a moonless night, and then walked through the bush and came around to this spot and then shot this way. Last year when we did it, there was a fox making all kinds of crazy noise, which was a little disconcerting. This time there was no animals making crazy noise. What I like about this one, so usually the way I look at it, I can see in the sky roughly what's reflected here. So we don't get all the stars in the reflection, but this is kind of what I can see. And what I like about this, you can actually see the core reflected and a bit of the dark horse. So it's a unique photograph that way. River is coming around the corner, going through some rapids, and there's a bit of fog there. So that was taken, I think, July this year.
You take time exposures and all this stuff, right?
So-
Take time exposures.
Yeah, 15 seconds.
So how do you prevent the stars from streaking?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, yeah, we're actually going to come to something like that. So, question is, how do I prevent the stars from streaking? So, the best answer is 10-second to 15-second exposure. If you go longer than that, the stars start to streak, especially with a wide-angle lens, and sometimes you'll actually be able to see it in some of my photographs. There'll be a bit of streaking.
Is the reflection streaking?
No, it's just that it's the angle. Yeah. So the stars do move from our perspective, and actually it's the Earth spinning. And so you're getting that at 10 to 15 seconds. 30 seconds you see the streak. The other thing I have done to try and get better shots is take 9 shots, 15 seconds, and then you can overlap them one on top of each other, then you get brighter stars. And I did that for a while, but the new sensors, I just found you don't need to do that. So does that answer your question, Doug? Okay.
Doug, if you stack them, how do you line them up again?
Mm.
What's on the horizon from? You use a star tracker on
Yeah, it's a good question. So what I do is use a program called Sequitur. And it actually, you select the 9 photographs, and it figures out, so I do 9, you can do more or less, but 9 is sort of the optimal. So you think of the 5th one being the middle one. It will take the 4 before that one and the 4 after it and line them right up on top, and it figures out what the horizon is in the foreground and leaves it alone. So the computer stuff really helps, and it's a free program. Oh, you asked about a star tracker. Herman, the guy I go out with, has a star tracker. So a star tracker is a device you put on your tripod between your camera and your tripod head, and it's got like a clock mechanism that turns at the same speed as the Earth rotates. So it takes out the rotation effect of the Earth, and then you can go for 4 or 5 minutes and get really crystal clear stars, but then the foreground is kind of streaked. So then you take a separate photograph for the foreground and then layer it back in. I've decided not to do that. I really like to try and capture the experience as it's happening. So I don't put it, alternative skies in. I don't try not to change colors. Again, it's not a criticism of those people who do, but it's just, I try and do that. And I've watched Herman fight with his star tracker for 20 minutes. I figured, nah, not for me.
Plus carry.
Yeah, plus carry, yeah. Yeah, when you've got a mile hike in the dark, you already got a tripod and a camera and a bunch of lenses to take a big star tracker, and they have counterweight balances for, anyway. My back can't handle it. So this, for those of you who recognize it, is Kiniseo and Riding Mountain. This is the dock. This was taken April, I think it was last year. So I hiked in here a few days before to make sure that the ice was safe enough to walk on. And we took a whole series of photographs. We took snowshoes to make sure we wouldn't break through the first top layer, which was happening with just boots. So what was the coolest thing about this, again, it's you're in the trees, you come out, you see the light on the ice, you see the stars, you start to figure out where you're going to be. And there was some sandhill cranes on the other side of the lake. And the whole time we were there, they were calling across the lake. And because it was dark, they didn't fly. So it was the coolest experience to be there listening to these things. This is Grasslands National Park in southern Saskatchewan, basically straight south of Moose Jaw. There's a couple of reasons to go there. One, it's extremely cool. Two, it's the darkest sky in the southern prairies. So if you're interested, go on your phone or on your computer and look up light pollution map, and you can find Europe, you can find North America, you can zoom in, and you can zoom in on Manitoba, and their numbers, I think they're called Bortle numbers. Somebody might know better than me. But in Manitoba, all of southern Manitoba, even if you're standing in the middle of Riding Mountain National Park, you don't get to the darkest number. Where there's so much ambient light pollution from farms, from cities, that even in the middle of the Riding Mountain Park, you don't get the darkest. You get that at Grasslands. So it's a great place to do night photography. So to Kevin's question, during the daytime, we hiked all through here, taking our phones and kind of trying to figure out what interesting foregrounds would be. And I've got a whole series of really great photos. And then, so at night you go back down. The interesting thing is it looks very different at night. So it's always fun to find your way around. Don't do lighting of objects very often, but we did at this one. So that's a fossil. It's a dinosaur fossil. It's about this long. Excuse me. It's the dinosaur is probably about 70 million years ago. It was wandering in this area. And I'll back up. As a kid, what blew my mind, somebody told me that the light from the stars that I was seeing left the stars millions of years ago. You think of it being like a flashlight on the other side of the room, somebody turns it off and it's gone, somebody turns it on, it's there. But millions of years ago, this light came from the stars. So as we were taking this, we were kind of talking, usually we're pretty quiet, but as we were talking, we were talking about this, that probably the light from one of these stars left the star when this dinosaur was alive. So it kind of puts humanity and all our problems into a different perspective. This is Grasslands this year. Something I'm trying to do is do more of the foreground rather than just silhouettes. This is air glow, all of this green kind of stuff. So air glow is when the sun during the day excites the atoms, particularly oxygen, which makes the green, and then at night it glows. Similar thing to northern lights, but I'll explain that a little bit later. And I don't know why. I've tried to find out why the air glow is there. Some days it's there, some days it's not. Some days it interferes with photographs, some days not. This kind of is interesting. So this is a single exposure, and the sensor is is good enough to pick up the light on the hills, the prairie hills. It's dark enough, there's enough light coming from the stars that it can actually open up the exposure. Like, I couldn't see all of this, I could see a little bit of the hills because it's pretty dark, but the sensor picks it up, and then you kind of put the Milky Way into context. So I've been experimenting with that lately. Keith, how am I doing time-wise? Okay. I went to Red Rock Coulee by myself this spring, south of Medicine Hat. Sorry. I'm getting old. So you can see the Milky Way, you can see the clouds coming in, you can see the one rock. There's all kinds of these rocks. They're the size of small SUVs just sitting out on the prairie in the coulees. If you go by Medicine Hat, it is well worth going there. This is about 40 minutes south of Seven Persons. And like I said, I've been really trying to do more of the horizon and the foreground, and I really lucked out here. So I'm looking pretty much straight south. To the west or the right of the photograph, there's a whole lot of wind turbines, which you think is pretty cool, except they've all got lights on them. And there's some towns, and so they're throwing light onto the horizon and the prairie hills in the background here, which the sensor picked up and made it really easy to make an interesting photograph. This picture was taken on Tuesday this week. Souris River, and again, trying to get some light in the foreground rather than the silhouette. And I don't know if you can see it in the back, but you can see the leaves on the trees that are turning. It's exciting, isn't it? So the two confessions on this one. So this is a series of photographs stacked like that and brought together into a panorama. And so the light at the top would actually be overhead. So this is all the way up. So it's a massive piece of sky. And the other thing is there's a ton of light pollution here. So in Photoshop, I separated out the horizon and the foreground and just slid it up and covered over the light pollution from all of the buildings and towns. So
You moved the earth.
I moved the earth, or the earth moved me, I guess, I don't know. So at this point, the dark horse is just below the horizon or in all of that gunk, but you can see we've got the rift. Again, you're experts at this by now. This is about 40 minutes after the last one. This is the Souris River, and all of the apps said it was going to be cloudy. And we lucked out for the previous photograph. By the time we took this one, these are clouds. And you can see the Milky Way behind the clouds. Still made an interesting photograph. Northern Lights. It's a misnomer. This is facing south. It is amazing to be underneath Northern Lights in the middle of the night, especially when it's moonless and the sky is clear. Again, the sensor picks up a little more than what we pick up. Some people can see the red pretty easily. I'm one of them. My wife can't see it for anything at night. This is a 14 millimeter lens, no, 15, doesn't matter, turned on its side. So again, we're looking almost straight up at the top. And this is what's called a corona. The northern lights or aurora are spilling down. I like this one. This is this old tree somehow really appeals to me. Nothing to do with my age, but I just imagine that eagles, owls, hawks have sat there, and there's been a lot of things that we don't see that this tree has been part of, like the Northern Lights.
It's amazing the contrast between like the ground and the sky. man, they work well together, don't they?
Yeah, it's just fantastic. And that's another, like the technical part is always trying to get the focus and make sure you can get both, which is another whole discussion. Sad thing is I was there the other day and the tree's blown over in a wind. So seize the day. It's a tree you've seen before. This is looking west, not north, so it's the west lights. So the northern lights, aurora, are caused by plasma, energy from the sun that the sun throws out during peak times of sunspots. And there's a sunspot cycle that runs about 11 years. And we are just at the peak cycle, just coming off of it right now. So we're going to be seeing less northern lights. So no one knows why. This is an 11-year cycle. And so this plasma is thrown out into space, and some of it hits the Earth, because I mean, we're a pretty small part of space. And it hits our magnetic field and comes shooting down our magnetic lines and interacts with oxygen and nitrogen to give the colors. So from a science point of view, that's what's happening. And so you've got the upper part, well, in the middle part, you can see there's red. So that's high atmosphere oxygen that's been excited, gives the red. Low atmosphere oxygen gives the green. And the purple blue, that is nitrogen. So you've got all this sun's energy coming down our electric fields, causing these atoms to glow. Now, apart from the science, it's still pretty amazing to be there and makes you think of all kinds of things non-science. There's just a whole lot of awe and wonder with this. This is looking straight up. Again, 14 millimeter lens, big, wide sky. Sorry? Yes. Let me think about this. No. Sorry. This was that was this winter. One of those nights when everyone said that it might be northern lights, and it was, yeah. But yeah, sometimes when you go out, you get them. Sometimes you don't. I've got some photographs during some of the big storms. This is what you often see, just sort of this glow of green on the horizon. This is the Souris River, hike down to the bottom by the North Camp. That's about 20 minutes later. And this time it's a panorama going wide, 3 photographs wide, because all of a sudden the northern lights just went crazy, went wide. So this is during one of the storms that, I don't know if it was the 23rd in April, but could have been. Sometimes you just see this unbelievably intense color. And sometimes you can only see it, it's only your sensor that picks it up. This is one of those days where you could see it clear as day. And literally, sometimes I'm shooting at exposures that are daytime exposures. And I don't have it in this one, but you can see that the foliage looks very green. I've actually had to change the color of the foliage in the foreground so that people would believe it. There's all this green light coming down, so of course everything is green. But everyone says, well, it's all fake, but it's not. This is the Assiniboine River, west of the 250.
Clear as night.
Yeah. This is last October at Riding Mountain. This is Clear Lake. So it's so bright, and the sensors in these cameras are so good, you can actually see the rocks through the water. Hopefully you can see it at the back there, and you could see this standing there. It wasn't just that the sensors were picking it up. You could actually see right through the water to the rocks. This was between 10 and about 1 o'clock. It's the strangest thing. You get these forecasts and they say, you know, big northern lights prediction tonight, and sometimes you go out and there's absolutely nothing. Sometimes you go out and they'll be there for an hour and then they're gone, and then they come back. There's all kinds of apps you can use, but who knows?
Have you attempted to film the movement?
No, I have not. I have actually done a time lapse with the movement, but I've not done the filming. Yeah, it's on my list. I get so involved. I really like still photography. And the video is just something I haven't done a lot of. I love this one, the way the curtain's coming down, the colors, the reflections. So if you to the lake walk at Riding Mountain between Wasagaming and Deep Bay, the artist cabin, this is just about at the artist cabin, and this is looking west. This is from the little beach at the artist cabin on Deep Bay. What's it? Is there a name for it, Darlene? Do you know?
The artist cabin?
No, that beach.
Oh, Deep Bay.
Deep Bay. Okay. Deep Bay. Yeah. So what I've taken out is a whole bunch of red lights on the far shore. This was one of those nights when they were predicting a lot of northern lights, and Herman and I were out together, and we went to right by the golf course. And there were probably 30, 40 photographers, maybe some of them in this room. And it's just not the way I like to experience night photography. So we drove over, went to where the artist cabin is, that long stairway down to the beach, and so we hung out there. So they couldn't see this.
So Doug, this is a good time to point out, if you drive into these places, turn your lights on.
Oh, yeah.
You get late, people sit there with their cars running and the lights on, and they go, I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
No, and none of us see anything then.
Yeah, it's a good point. I don't know if you heard that, but if you go out on nights like this, turn your car off, turn your lights off. It drives you crazy as a photographer. You get everything all set up, and then someone's car lights come sweeping in. They point them at you, and then they sit there in their car running, lights on. Yeah, it's just, it's maddening. I guess the other thing to point out, it takes about 20 minutes being outside at night for your eyes to fully adjust to and have night vision, as good as you're going to get. And so we use headlamps, and we use both white light for when you're walking or hiking, but you switch that to red, because red doesn't dilate your eyes, and so it allows you to work with your camera, but it doesn't change your night vision. And so if you see photographers or people with big telescopes out at night and have red light, that's what's going on. Because it's really worth it, and it's really frustrating. To your point, Darlene, when someone comes in and you've been out there for 20 minutes, half an hour, your night vision is there, you can see everything, and all of a sudden everything's lit up with lights, and you got to wait another 20 minutes. So I told you I'd take a picture of, or show you a picture of Herman. This is so you can recognize him when you meet him.
Is he in this room?
Yeah, no, he's not. He's actually at Waterton, hoping for clear skies tonight. This is at Lake Catherine. Also at Lake Catherine. I put my rubber boots on and walked out so I could get past the reeds. You're a pretty happy little girl, or boy, person. This is the photograph I think should be on our new health cards. This is the Manitoba bison.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
About 20 minutes later. So I talked before about the sun's energy from the plasma coming down our electrical field. Sometimes it's straight and calm, and sometimes the electrical field is just going all wonky and crazy. And so that's why all of this is going all over the place. Another favorite tree. So does anyone know what's going on here? Star trails, yeah. Photographers know what this is. So this is the turning of the Earth, basically. The North Star is the one that's not moving. So you know, I would assume, that if you're out anytime at night and you find the North Star, that's north. It doesn't move. And if you're paying attention, you see the Big Dipper changing, moving across. You see Orion moving around. And so this is a series of over about an hour and a half. And a composite of, I can't remember now, about 180 photographs. In the old days with film, you used to be able to just set it up and let it go. And there's reciprocity failure, made all the dark stuff dark. But if you did that with a digital camera, you just end up with a white rectangle. There's so much light coming in. So what you do, this is 15-second exposures. And this is a different programs called Star Stacks. And so there'll be one 15-second exposure, and then it takes the next 15-second exposure and puts it there, next 15-second, next 15 seconds. So it basically just takes each photograph and adds to the line of the star trails. So this is documenting the rotation of the Earth. And the color, sometimes you don't see it, and you might see a little bit of light on the horizon. You might not sure if it's light pollution or if it's northern lights. But with taking 180 photographs, it sort of paints in a bit of color at the bottom. So that's what's happening. So do you understand what this is? Kind of, yeah. To me, it's not something you see, but it really encapsulates the experience of being out there and the fact that there's a whole lot going on. And when we're sitting here, we think everything is stable, but we're moving at a huge amount of speed going around.
So Doug, as a person who gets motion
Oh,
sick,
sorry.
I get motion sick when I'm out there at night. Like I'll come home and like everything's spinning.
Is that right?
Yeah, and it's just from Earth rotation.
Really?
Yeah.
Trying to explain that
But
to
you're
the
not
flat
seeing it, you're not
earthers.
seeing
Yeah.
it.
No, you're not seeing it.
But
I
it's
feel-
affecting
I
your
feel
inner-
it.
Yeah.
I feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it. I think there's probably a lot of sensitivities that we have that we don't acknowledge.
Yeah, I'll take gravel before I
Yeah,
go out.
wow. And I think that when there's big Northern Lights events, there's all that energy coming at us, and especially if the magnetic fields are changing. Like animals notice that. Birds often don't migrate when things are going all crazy because it throws their sense of direction off. So I'm sure there are people who can feel that. One of the things that really intrigues me is if you go back 150 years before all this light pollution, most people would be very comfortable with being outside at night and be really comfortable with the idea of the Earth rotating, or at least the stars moving. And yet, explaining that to some people now, they just are very perplexed. They don't understand it. They've never really seen it. You know, it's just we just are so used to all this light, and we really miss the sky. Same thing, 20 below. It's nice to have two cameras, especially when it's this cold. You set one up, then you go for a hike and do some other photography and hike back so you can stay warm. This one I think is 2.5 hours. So the streaks are longer. It's my favorite tree. So you never know what's going to happen at night. This is pointed in the direction of Shiloh. So this is the Canadian forces doing night maneuvers and sending out flares in the bottom corner. And I've tried to take that out because I've planned to do this photograph for years, and that night they happened to be out doing night maneuvers. I much prefer the coyotes howling back and forth. We're almost done. So this is Whirlpool River with the whirlpool of stars. I took this one this spring at Grasslands. This is about 2 hours worth of the Earth turning. Low-grade northern lights.
Is that a real TP or a fake one?
Yeah, it was in the back of the vehicle.
Next to each tree.
Yeah.
Some things are better left unknown.
No, the Parks Canada has set up 3 TPs structures there, sort of an acknowledgement of the indigenous
That's
people.
Cool Lake.
No, this is Grasslands National Park.
Oh, okay.
So this is the East Block if you've been there, and there's by the campground, and they've got these 3 TP poles set up. There's all kinds of TP rings in the park. In fact, what I really like about this photograph, it reminds me of an experience I had in the I guess mid-90s. The park has just started in the 1990s, and so I heard about it and I wanted to go there. So I was by myself and I drove down, and I went into the park's people, and they said there's no tent sites at that point, no campgrounds. But I could take my tent anywhere I wanted as long as I was like a quarter mile off the road. So I went out and I found a spot, and there's all these teepee rings. And I set my tent up amongst the teepee rings and spent the night there. In the middle of the night, there was some low-grade northern lights. It was a very cool experience. So it was up on one of the coulees looking over the Frenchman Valley. Before it got dark, I could see the coyotes running, which was really cool until it got dark. But anyway, they didn't bother me. So that's for me, that's sort of what this photograph is about. And that's the end. Thank you. Hey. Close to being on time, Keith.
No, that was perfect.
I don't know if we've got time for questions or comments.
Yeah, we can have a little question period. I'm going to turn the lights on, so it's going to be a shock to the system.
Pollution.
Yeah.
Light pollution coming in.
Light pollution is a huge issue.
The central stars, you see?
Yeah.
What do you see in the central?
Well, I don't know. What do you see?
Not the North Star.
Yeah, that's the North Star. Yeah. So the question.
A few others.
Yeah. So that's again the North Star in the center. What's interesting, there's no South Star. So if you take a picture looking south, you get starts about here. You get these big wide rings, but you get nothing at the center. Everything is turning. And the cool thing is, and I've done this, so that's looking north. So if you imagine the north-south axis of the Earth, and the axis points straight at the North Star. So we're sort of on the top part in the northern hemisphere. So as the Earth is turning, this is what's happening. So if you turn your camera to the west, it looks completely different. You actually get it going like this, where it goes between the north and the south. So there's a whole bunch of things you can do to have fun. But anyway, it's another talk.
So Doug, when can we expect the coffee table book? Because I would buy it.
Would you?
We'll sell it.
Yeah. Well, I've been thinking about it actually.
Really?
Yeah, just for a personal one and for friends. You know, I've got enough of them now. It's one of the coolest things to try and figure out whether you want to go out at night or not. You've got to figure out the clouds, you've got to figure out the moon, whether it's good or bad. You've got to figure out what the northern lights are doing, because the northern lights, if you're taking star trails, they can wipe out your photographs. It's really, really interesting. You got all this stuff in your head and all these questions, should I, shouldn't I, but yet if you just go, always get something interesting and always have a good experience, which is, to me, the best part of it.
Doug, you're saying that when you were growing up on your, in Ontario there, you rode a lot at
Yep.
night and had appreciation for what was out there. When did you seriously get into the photography end of it and photography as art?
Yeah, good question. I guess I got one of those little Brownie Instamatic cameras when I was a kid, and I actually have some of those photographs, and I did my duty and took pictures of friends and family, but about half of the photographs are of trees. And so that was where the interest started. I got a serious camera when I was about 20, but never really got serious till about the 80s. I saw a presentation by Freeman Patterson, and just went, oh yeah, I want to go there. And so then I started doing things intentionally rather than just having a camera with me, and I got a tripod. He had a challenge in one of his books, use a tripod for a year and then decide. I did that, and it totally changed my photography because it slowed me down, made me look through the lens and think about it. And then in 2000...
That's only 50 years ago.
Oh, I know, I'm a pretty young guy. 2000, I had a serious health issue. I had a disc rupture and severed a bunch of nerves in my back, and had a surgery that didn't go very well. Didn't go very well at all. And so when I came out of that, I eventually had to quit work. I couldn't work. In fact, I just tried to basically survive either in bed or in a recliner for about 8 years. And it was a really tough go. And one of the things that really kept me going, family, and photography and nature. And so we lived just west of the city on Grand Valley Road, about 3 miles before they put in the golf course, which has all that light now. But anyway, I used to, because I couldn't sleep, it actually was during one of those 11-year peaks in Northern Lights, and I would get up in the middle of the night, I was just in agony, and I would look out the window and I would see Northern Lights, so I'd grab my camera gear and walk out into the field and take pictures and come back. And so I had to leave work, and really I've always felt this really deep, deep connection with wild places. It's one of the things that kept me sane, and so since that time I've really put more energy and effort into capturing that experience for myself and then sharing it with others who are interested.
So good that you had that problem. It's a real warm and fuzzy story. It's great because you know what?
Yeah.
Your life was hell for
Yeah.
that period of time, but you moved on, and I'm sure
Yeah.
you found it therapeutic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I'm
what's
sure it's
with-
therapeutic to this day.
You can
Now
ask.
that you're healthier and right?
Yeah, you can ask my family. Son-in-law's here.
Oh, okay.
You can
Are
ask.
the whole family here?
No.
I thought you were popular.
Yeah, I just jammed my family in here. No, it was a very difficult time and still is at times. But
sure it is.
but yeah, this is what the passion for keeps me going. It's like Wei Ming, who has a passion for painting every day.
Unbelievable. That's another story.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have that someday as well. So.
He has a show at the Section 6 brewery right now,
Okay.
if anyone is
I
interested.
see it on Facebook all the time. It comes up. You know, just somebody's birthday, somebody I know, you present them with a picture of the guapo or the party.
I was just wondering if such intense detail could serve to document climate change.
Oh,
Have you noticed, the foreground of the big money there? Do you see changes over time, or have you considered that?
yeah, I've thought about it a lot. The question is have I noticed climate change through the photography, or has it documented any climate change?
It's so detailed.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I would say, I can't say specifically, but I know this last peak in the Northern Lights, the last 3-4 years, it's actually been harder to get them because we often have clouds, humidity. Like I think the last 2-3 weeks, it's been really difficult. So you go back the last 11-year cycle or in the early 2000s, it seemed to me to be much easier to get out and shoot. So I don't know. I can't say we've documented anything.
A little more light pollution, I guess you're going out further and further.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, the light pollution's driving me crazy. Like it really is amazing. And it's solvable. We can just put the same amount of light down. There's ways to not have the light go up. So it's a good point, but I don't know if I can answer it.
Doug, have you had any photos not destroyed, but ruined by like light pollution from orbiting satellites?
Yeah, question is about satellites. Yeah.
They're in there somewhere.
Yeah, I've taken them out of this. They really tick me off. Here, see them all? Yeah, there. Yeah, because of the light pollution from Shiloh, I just figured I'm going to leave these alone. But I do try and take them out there. Yeah, it's getting worse and worse. I had one picture all set up, and all of a sudden this chain came by of Starlinks.
Yeah,
Yeah, like this light train.
there's thousands of them.
Yeah, crazy. Anyone else? Time for coffee?
I have one last question. So you've done night, moon, you've done northern lights, you've now done star trails. Is there something else that you want to do? Is there something else that is being done that you want to explore?
Yeah, good question. I'm always looking for new things to just explore. I've done some infrared photography in the daytime. I wouldn't mind doing some of that at night. Infrared, you can get the camera sensor set up so that it blocks out visible light, the light that we see, and lets in the light that we don't see. And in the daytime, it's really interesting because things like grass turn white. I've tried a little bit at night, but I haven't really explored that. So that would be something that I'd like to do. I would like to do video to the point. It's just another level of complexity. It's a whole another level or another bunch of software to learn that I haven't taken the time.
Can I ask about smoke? What does the camera think? I just think of the summer being so smoky. What does that limit you? Does the camera?
Yes.
What does it?
Yeah, you get a pink or a warm sepia glow.
Just like when we watch the sunsets.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
camera
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
take that out for you.
No.
or anything.
In fact, it was a big problem. We went to, Herm and I went to Red Rock Coulee and then to Writing on Stone Park 2 years ago. This is in Alberta. And it was during the time of all of the smoke, and we thought, well, going maybe to the southwest, we'd miss it, because it kind of comes sweeping down into Manitoba. But it was just like so thick you couldn't see. It looked like fog. And we were really lucky. The one night there was a wind, and it came and it just cleared things out in the direction we were shooting in. And then a couple hours later, back in. And so it either turns the photograph fairly yellow or sepia tone. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not. But what happens, if you're shooting straight up, the density isn't as bad. If you're shooting on the horizon, you're shooting through a lot of atmosphere. And so that's why in one of those pictures, the dark horse, you just couldn't see it on the horizon because there's just so much smoke, and same thing for humidity.
That's a link with climate change too.
Yeah, there you go, climate change and the smoke, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you to Doug so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
You're all welcome to hang out and chat a bit more, obviously. We also have the BJ Hales collection down the hall, and that's our natural history collection. And yeah, just another round of applause.